Right, hello everyone. So today I would like to present to you my epic master plan to save England, to save our colonies, to save America, to save the Anglosphere, and to save Europe itself. What is this amazing plan? This amazing plan is called Make England Switzerland Again. So what do I mean by this? Is this just a joke? Am I just having a laugh? No. I'm actually very, very serious. It is my opinion that if we look at objectively at all the white nations in the world, not only the white nations of the world, but all nations in the world, we can all agree that Switzerland is one of the greatest, if not the greatest. It is a very, very, very safe country. It is a very wealthy country. They have the right to bear arms, and they have a solidarity and a strong culture and an ancient history, and they haven't been overwhelmed by globalism. They've refused to be absorbed into the European Union. So I'm not saying this country is perfect. They have had some problems there. As far as I understand it, they did have some kind of referendum to have a mandate for vaccines. I also understand it that although they've been resisting mass immigration, they're being let in now. The foreigners are slowly coming in. Also, recently in the news, of course, they withdrew their neutrality, and they persecuted some Russian oligarchs and took their wealth away. So I'm not saying the country's perfect by a long stretch of the imagination, but it is a very, very good country, and in my opinion, it has done a very, very good job of resisting globalism, considering that it is a small landlocked country in the heart of Europe, on top of the mountains. No, I mean, what kind of natural resources do they have? Do they have oil? Do they have gas? Do they have gold mines, diamond mines? I don't think so. And yet they're doing quite well. Why are they doing quite well? Because they have referendums. They have referendums on everything. So you can check this out on Wikipedia and go and have a look. But every year they have like 3 referendums. And in those referendums, the people will go and they will vote. And they will vote for 3 or 4 or 5 different laws or whatever. Basically, whatever laws the government passes, they get the people of Switzerland get to veto it. They also have the opportunity to propose their own laws if they're very, very unhappy about something. And if they get enough signatures, then the entire country will have to vote on it. So, my dear friends, when I say make England Switzerland again, I say to you, let's have referendums. Let's have referendums. Let the people of England vote on any law that the government passes. And I believe this is, I've been talking to many people about this, just ordinary people on the street. I haven't met anybody that disagrees yet. I haven't met anybody who thinks it's a bad idea. It's a very, very strange idea, I have to say, because I've been on the internet for 8 years, nearly 8 years, talking about politics. I've never seen any of the dissident right thinkers or any like conspiracy theory thinkers or anybody proposing this idea of let's have referendums, which is very strange on the surface of it, considering that, firstly, it's obvious that Switzerland is one of the nicest countries in the world, and it's nice because it has referendums, but also we had a referendum in this country. We had Brexit, and I voted for it, and so did 10 million other people. And I remember the feeling of liberty on that day when the government finally gave me the right to choose on something, instead of just telling me what I have to do. And it's very interesting that this hasn't become part of the national discourse. It's very interesting that people aren't demanding more referendums. But nonetheless, I mean, I guess if people don't, I mean, it's all about ideas at the end of the day. If you don't have the right ideas, then nobody talks about it. You know, you don't have the right course of action, I suppose. But I think referendums are a very, very good idea. I think it's something that people on the right and the left wing could agree upon. I think that everybody hates the political class because the political class lies about everything. Everybody knows that you vote and they say they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they just do something completely different, and you're left wondering, well, what the hell is, what kind of democracy is this? Where's my freedom? I get to vote every 5 years. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is something that we feel on the right wing, but the left wing feels the same way. The last time Labour was in power, they were entirely dissatisfied with Tony Blair and his war in Iraq. So I think everybody hates politicians, and given the choice to veto whatever the politicians do, they would take it. And it is my opinion that liberty is very important, because if you want to be happy, you have to have liberty. Well, basically my central argument is, if you want to discover the truth, you have to have freedom of speech in order to discover the truth. In order to have freedom of speech, you must have liberty, like real, practical, actual liberty. And then you can say whatever you want. If you can say whatever you want, you can discover the truth. If you can discover the truth, then you can cut through all the bullshit. And you can have a functional society because you can speak your mind. And if people are able to speak their minds, then you will, in a very natural way, have a family-friendly, centre-right, traditionalist, socially conservative society. Because the people in general will always trend towards the right if you give them the choice. This has been proven on social media. If people, if you have freedom of speech on a social media platform, generally it swings to the right. This is what's happening on X right now. Why does this happen? Well, because right-wing policies are family-friendly policies, right? So men and women have a natural inclination to have sex with each other. This will create children, and once they've created children, then they want to look after the children, they want to have families, and they want to have a family-friendly society, and so they're going to have socially right-wing opinions. All this left-wing madness that we're experiencing right now is simply the result of censorship. It cannot be maintained without censorship. So if you have freedom of speech, you will have a conservative and happy and family-friendly society. How do you get that freedom of speech? Well, you need to have a strong middle class. Because if you don't, then you don't have real freedom of speech. You can have freedom of speech on paper, like they have in America. They've got the First Amendment. But it doesn't really mean anything, because if you work for a corporation and you say the wrong thing, you'll lose your job. So you need strong middle class, and you need strong home ownership, and you need small businesses. Because generally speaking, small businesses don't care about your political opinions. So if you have referendums, in my opinion, over a long enough period of time, the people in a country will vote for laws that will favour the majority, thus creating a strong middle class, and thus creating a strong sense of liberty, and thus you will have freedom of speech, and thus you can discuss the truth, what is right and what is wrong, and thus you will have a happy and strong and socially stable society. So this, I think, is the rallying call for our people. Now, obviously, I'm against immigration. I want to kick all the immigrants out. And we need to vote for a party that wants to do that. This year I'll be voting for reform. But as a long-term solution to all of our problems, this is something which I think people can rally behind. They're not going to rally behind fascism, because nobody wants to live in a fascist dictatorship except for a few crazy people on the internet. Most people like the relative freedom that we have. So how do we push forward change? Well, let's call for referendums. It's also, in my opinion, the solution to the problem in America, because I don't know if Trump's going to win. I mean, maybe Trump will win this year. Who knows? But if he doesn't, what's America going to do? Is it going to fight a civil war? I somehow doubt it. But they could call for referendums. They already had a progressive movement in America 100 years ago, or 120 years ago. And some states have called for referendums. So you could make America Switzerland again as well. You could have every single separate state in America just opposing the federal government and giving its people referendums and assuming a kind of localized power. That's something that could work. So, I mean, in like, people may disagree with this whole idea. They may say, well, hang on a minute, you know, people are stupid and you can't give them the vote because they don't know what's going on. Well, people are stupid and they don't know anything about politics because they don't have any power to do politics. Right? You know, what's the point? Even I'm interested in politics, but I don't pay attention to what's going on in Parliament because I've got no power to change, you know, what laws that they're passing. Apparently they passed a law recently where the police have the right to enter a home and fiddle around with the power supply because of global warming or whatever. You know, I mean, if I was given the choice, I wouldn't have voted for that. And if I had the ability to choose, then I would have paid attention to the laws and I would have, you know, known more about it. So my argument is that if you give people the right to vote, if you give people the ability to veto the government, then they will pay attention to the news and they will pay attention to the laws that is being passed in Parliament, and they will educate themselves. And so in a natural way, you will develop a more educated society. So, let's make England Switzerland again. Thank you very much for listening. I know it's a strange idea, but I can promise you that once you've gotten this idea in your head, right, once you've started to think about Switzerland and once you've started to think about referendums, you won't be able to get the idea out of your head. You'll be annoyed, just like I am now. You'll be asking yourself the question, well, why is the government passing all these laws and I don't get a say in it? So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for listening. God bless.